What's up, y'all? Rich Slayton here, and today we're bringing you a preview of Clash Royale League East. Yes, you have to wait for some West action until May, but CRL East starts this weekend, April 4th, and today we're going to break down every single roster. Who's the best? Who's the not best? Who might be a sleeper? Who's going to win the whole thing? And joining me, two of my good friends, both CRL casters, of course, my co-host for CRL in English, my buddy Andrew Ghai, and from the Spanish side and from No Tilt, one of the most entertaining guys in Clash Royale, Kojisan, is on the channel. Andrew, Koji, thanks for joining me, and we'll start with you, Andrew. Quick check-in, how you doing, how you feeling, and how are you excited for CRL East?
Dude, honored to be here. I'm excited to be on the channel. I've seen all the growth you've had, and I've been watching your videos. I love them. So I'm excited, man, and obviously, I'm dying to get into some CRL West news because that's our bread and butter. But looking at these CRL East teams and rosters, I'm excited to talk about them. There's a lot that I do know, and there's definitely a lot that I don't know. So maybe you can help me fill in some information there. But yeah, I definitely have some favorites. And I like that you said best and the not best as opposed to worst. So I'm excited to talk about all that.
Yeah, it's going to be a stacked region overall. Of course, someone who might be a little less politic than you and I, coming from the Spanish broadcast, our friend Koji-san. Buddy, how you doing? I'm guessing you have some pretty strong opinions about some of these squads.
Oh, do I? Yes. First of all, thank you for having me here again. And also, yeah, congratulations on your channel, man. You should be in 10,000 already. Hopefully, we're going to help you today with that. Talking about CRL East, yes, I have very strong opinions. I'm with Andrew in this. I know, I would say most of them, now that I have all the rosters here, I would say 70%. But there are other things that we have to take into consideration, and it is stacked. So it's going to be really hard for us to try to figure it out who is the best team and who is going to take it all.
Sweet.
Wait, hold on. Did you just say that Koji was going to have big opinions about something? I just don't know if I heard that correctly.
Yeah, maybe he'll have an opinion about something. He's usually pretty dispassionate, so maybe he'll find some fire towards something this time around. So let's waste no more time, guys. Let's jump right into it. And this is a roster that I'm really excited about. I know, Andrew, you and I talked about it. You're really excited about it. Returning to CRL East, again, from 2 different regions down to just 8 teams, and this one got even better somehow. The CRL World finalist from last season, Fav Gaming, with, let's just talk about this roster. I'm going to give it to you real quick. Jack, Kensumeshi, Kitashian, Donnie, and then adding in one of our personal favorites, Expo Master, joining this roster. Andrew, I know you were so excited about this roster, so go ahead. Give me your thoughts right out the gate.
I mean, some of the best content we got last year was when Jack and Expo Master played each other, just to see like these 2 quick cycle gods play against one another, and also 2 people that sometimes play very near meta decks with a card switched out or rotated out, or just completely off meta decks that blow your mind. Combining their powers, kind of like what we did in the West with Sam and Morton becoming one, like putting those Germans together and what they did with SK. I'm thinking that Fav's going to do the exact same thing here. You know, with their format, 2v2 is not as important, so I'm assuming they definitely have a triple draft master. I don't know if you guys know who that is or not, but when I look at this and I see Kitashian, Expo, Jack, Kensumeshi, and Donnie, like they're all seasoned vets of the game as well. So you've got experience, you've got people that you can rotate in and out being your 1v1 specialist, and I guess masters of the game knowledge. So I'm really, really excited about Fav. For some reason, I still always have Nova in the back of my mind, but for me, it feels like these guys are 100% my favorite to take CRL East.
Yeah, Expo Master and Jack, of course. If you haven't yet, I'll put it in the show notes. I did a great video breaking down Expo Master and Jack playing the exact same matchup back-to-back, Jack winning 1 and Expo Master making some adjustments to win game 2. So I'll put that in the show notes if you want to check out that video for Inside the Play. Koji, taking a look at this roster, I know that obviously Jack and Expo are the two big names that everyone's really excited to see here. Do you have any thoughts on Kitashian and Kensumeshi? We saw them kind of as anchors for Fav back in the CRL World Finals. I know I like Kensumeshi a lot. I think he's very entertaining. How do you feel about these guys?
Well, we all know them in person. I mean, I also had the pleasure to meet him back in London when it was the CCGS. So I love the guy, but let's talk about like gameplay. I strongly believe these players, they are like, I would say if the 2v2 was still in the CRL East, I would be with Andrew. Fab Gaming, no doubt. Out of every roster, I love them. Now that we have this triple draft, I believe that a player that has like the best micro is the one that is going to win those type of matchups at the end, because they're going to pick whatever they feel comfortable to play right away in the draft, and they're going to be the best. And yes, they added an Expo Master like that. They already have a Jack, but I don't know. I'm telling you, they're strong. I love this team, but I don't feel as strong because of the format. And that's something that's why I wanted to say that it was going to be complicated. But we saw Expo Master. You saw it in No-Till Worlds. I mean, what he did, he swept Argentina, if I'm not wrong. He didn't play any match. He comes and King of the Hill, when they needed him, I don't know if it was Argentina, maybe I'm lost, but he swept, and it was amazing. And he went to Twitter saying, hey, everybody was counting me out. I'm here. I still have the skills. So I think he has a lot to show with Fab Gaming. He's going to be in the top 4. But I wouldn't put it like the best team, like Andrew says.
And that's, you bring up a good point. And for those of you who are just joining us and didn't actually know about this, the format is a little different for CRL East. The opening set, instead of being 2v2, it's going to be King of the Hill. Set number 2 is Triple Draft, making its debut in CRL. We'll see how that goes in East. And then the final set is a best of 3 1v1. So very curious to see how that works out. We'll talk more about our feelings about this format later, but it definitely does change how we view some of these teams. I know I love this team just like you guys do. Donnie also, you can't count him out as a member of this squad. 5 players rather than 4, which does make things a little interesting. We'll see if there's any sort of weird dynamics. But Jack and Expo Master together is exciting. Kensu is a long-time vet. Katashian obviously is really good. And I think Fav, I think you're right in saying that they are definitely a contender for the top 4. The question is whether 2v2 being out will hurt them. Moving on.
Well, one thing, sorry to interrupt. I was just going to say one thing I think that is really interesting about, the 2v2 format being the way that it is and having 5 people on a roster, in the sense that there is no 2v2, right? So what happened before and what's always happened that we're used to is as soon as you see 2v2 being a set, you know that there's going to be your 2v2 specialists that are in there that are essentially, one of them is usually taking up a roster spot when you get into King of the Hill and 1v1. And that's now something that you're not going to really experience in CRL East, where you have someone who's maybe a lesser head-to-head player that still fielded that day because they had to be, available for 2v2. Now, if that not happening, we've just got 4 specialists in essentially head-to-head play.
Yeah, that's really interesting, and we'll see if some of these players from 2v2, obviously everyone plays head-to-head play. That's how you start the game. You're not spending your entire offseason playing just 2v2, but that's a really, really interesting point to see how some of these players maybe pivot from being those sort of specialists into what. And the thing we still don't know at this point is whether this format will bleed its way over into CRL West. Especially with also being remote as well. And you're like, Koji.
I'm hyperventilating already. Please stop.
Well, before we dig into that format and maybe some passionate feelings that my friend from Venezuela has, let's jump into our second team of the day, Kix. And Kix is continuing sort of a trend they've had, which is having some non-Eastern region players in the mix. The one thing, a piece of info I broke here on this channel at one point was that X Pedro, one of the best players of Venezuela, one of the best players of CRL Latin America, was meant to be on Kix again this season, and then because of travel restrictions going on right now, currently not going to be on Kix. So curious about whether he'll end up in CRL West or what's going to happen. But here's the Kix roster, and this is a really interesting one because it's combining a couple of squads. So we have Malunton returning for Kix, Onion on Kix as well, Legend returning to Kix for another season. But then adding in from Chaos Theory, Benzer Rydell and JTV, both moving over to Kix, and then rounding things out on this big roster, the Frenchman, Isla, who we saw in No-Tilt Worlds, now being added to that squad. You've seen a lot of these players in international play. In particular, Isla has been playing on the international stage. Koji, any thoughts on this Kix squad? They just got rid of IMJP, who's in CRL West now. Yeah. Pedro's not going to be there. Does this improve their chances? Does this hurt their chances? Benzer and Jay going there. What do you think?
Well, I'm going to be... Well, first of all, you know the coach also was Diego. And so Diego's from Venezuela, Pedro from Venezuela. So, yeah. I'm going to be a little bit biased. So it sucks. Right now, Kick sucks. No, it doesn't suck, but definitely... I think they are not as strong. If they would have kept JP... I'm not even talking about the coach, but JP and X Pedro 15. Are you serious? It would be an amazing team with the new format they have. Even though they were killing it in the 2v2 at the end, they were doing a great job. Right now, I don't see them that strong. Islo had his moments. I mean, he was killing at the beginning, then he went really cold, then he played good in the last 2 matches, if I'm not wrong, last season. Legend always can be a god. And then Benzo Rydell is how you pronounce it, no? Rydell? Yes, he was very, very good, but then, I don't know, I didn't feel that at the end, when in the playoffs came, that he wasn't there for his team. What was the team that he was before?
Chaos Theory,
yeah.
Yeah, he didn't perform as good as that regular season, so it was very, I don't know. I feel, to be honest, this team is gonna be in the bottom 3. I'm gonna go that strong. I don't know if you share with me, but yes, bottom 3 for them.
Now, Andrew, you have maybe share something with Benzo Rydell. He's a mortar bait player. You're a mortar bait player. We've seen the mortar bait quote unquote one tricks have various successes, whether it's Lapo or Igor, and we got a chance to look at Benzer up close and personal in China at the World Cyber Games last summer, where his team didn't really have the greatest success. What do you think about Benzer being added to this team? What do you think about mortar bait where it stands right now, and your overall thoughts on kicks?
Excuse me. Well, I'm really happy. First of all, let's get to the most important thing, mortar bait. It seems that mortar is doing pretty well in the meta right now. Enjoying matchups more than I have in the past, and I think that Benzer, Lapo, Hazard, all those guys are probably feeling the same way. It's interesting, man. You mentioned China, and when we met our counterparts of CRL Asia and CRL China at the time when we were there, the other casters, they were kind of telling us about Benzer and some of these other superstars that we're going to just destroy all of our players in the West, and I know that the 6 of us being casters, we're all very confident in the people that we had, the talent that we were bringing from CRL West, and, the results of WCG speak for themselves. Benzer was very good, but I don't look at him as that guy the same way that I even look at Expo or Jack or Elsiop. You've got these guys that are kind of just like your home run hitters. And I know that Benzer Rydell was that for Chaos Theory. And I know that most people that are fans of him probably believe that. I just don't know if he has what it takes to carry a team right now with the way that the game is evolving. Whereas Legend is great, but I just don't know if he can hang with the best of the best. And if you're going to put that much pressure on Benzer, I just don't know if he can follow through.
It's going to be a really interesting case. And of course, IMJP, it's an interesting move. IMJP moving to Team Queso for this season, going back to Spain. So it's kind of a big loss for Kicks, in my opinion. And yeah, replacing him with Isla, who's a talented player, a talented young Frenchman. But we'll see. I don't know if I agree with you. I don't know if I think that he is the same kind of caliber, or at least not the same resume as a guy like JP. And I think that JP showed himself in Asia last season to be ready. And that's a big part of why he's with Queso this season. So that'll be really interesting to see how that one shakes out. Any last thoughts on Kicks, guys, before we move on? No. All right.
No. I'm giving positions. I mean, I have a question. I mean, I'm going to go against with the format, but something basic.
Sure.
Do we know if, for example, it starts with King of the Hill? Obviously, we have to have 3 players. Is it mandatory that the 4th player has to play the next set, or you think it will be that you can use one of those 3?
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, that is really interesting.
I don't know what the rules are in CRL East for that, and obviously what they'll translate to West, but I would hope that it's the 4th player has to play in the next set. That would actually make things much more compelling, in my opinion.
Yeah. I 100% agree. I think it's really important that whoever's in King of the Hill cannot also be your triple draft specialist.
But you agree that it should be the same thing, that you have a roster from 4 to 6, and every day you have to have 4 players.
I think so too.
Yes.
Yeah, I think so.
Who knows?
Okay, so I just wanted to ask that, because we'll see soon, like you're saying. And the playoff format, I have no idea. But one thing that I'm complaining about you two, I'm giving positions every time, and you guys are not.
Hey, man, I said that I think Fav will be like the top team, and then for Kicks, I think I'm with Koji on this. I mean, if there's 8 teams in CRL East, I think I could probably put Kicks at 6th or 7th.
That's a tough spot for Kicks, and we'll get through the rest of the rosters, but yeah, it's going to be hard, in my opinion, for Kicks to crack the top 4. It's going to be a challenge, especially with how condensed the talent is in the other teams that they're facing off against. So I'm going to say I think Fav is definitely a contender in the top 3. Kicks is going to be hard for them to break out of the bottom 4 with the way that these rosters look, especially talking about our next roster, a team that has been to the World Finals twice, a CRL World Champion, that's got a really interesting, probably one of the more controversial rosters of this CRL season, for reasons that I think are unfounded, but I'm curious to hear everyone's opinion. Talking about Nova Esports with D.King, Xiao.K, and Little Chen returning, and then the addition of Aurora, not AUK, but Aurora, the second female player in Clash Royale League, following Sia from W.EDGM. Aurora's a 20-win challenge player. Her PB on her Royale API is 6.5, but you can never really know with some of these players whether that PB is their true BB or not, because maybe they have a secret account that they have achieved a higher trophy rating on somewhere else. But a really interesting person to be mixed in here, and I'm curious to see how she feels in this new format, especially as you guys just brought out the possibility that the fourth player has to play in triple draft, which would mean that all four of these players on Nova's roster would have to be mixed into every single match. So guys, first, right out the gate, does anyone have any thoughts here on Nova and on the addition of this new rookie into our 2020 season?
Do you mind me asking for you to elaborate a little bit on what you were saying, like the rumblings behind Nova and the roster moves that's kind of received some backlash?
Well, some people were curious about whether or not, like this, I think this is an unfounded accusation, but that this is more of a it's kind of like how Sia was on as a morale booster and as a content creator with W.EDGM. That Aurora is in the same position, but with a 4-person roster, I can't imagine, and especially knowing Nova's history, Nova expects championships. So in my opinion, if Aurora's on a Nova roster, that means that she can ball. That's my opinion, top to bottom. But some people are saying that she's on purely because she's a woman, which I just can't imagine Nova doing that. That would seem crazy to me, considering that Nova almost got a triple crown last season, right? Like, I would be surprised by that. And Aurora, 6.6 personal best on her account, 20-win challenge player. She looks like right now she's running 3M Royal Hogs with Magic Archer. So if you hate 3M, maybe you hate her even more. But again, like that's my basic opinion on Aurora is if she's on Nova's roster, it's because she can play. That's what I think.
What do you think, Coach?
Especially with a 4-person roster.
You want to toss it to me? I'll go right away. And look what I'm going to say. It's going to be brutal. I think Nova is going to be in the bottom 3 as well. I'm going to put them down. Yes. And I'm going to let you know why. Little Chen, dude, he was casting next to me. I mean, I met him. He's a super nice guy. Aurora, I don't know much about the girl, but I think I know what you're trying to say. It wasn't a PR move. It could be a PR move, but I don't think so. I thought when she was brought to Nova that she was going to play 2v2. That's why I'm saying it's so important. I don't know when these teams found out that the format was going to be different. In my opinion, she was brought to be a specialist in 2v2. It's my feeling. And of course, if you have a team that are a strong 2v2 and then you have Xiao.K can win by himself.
Sure.
But that's why I would love to know if it is mandatory that you use the 4 players or not. Again, with all this said, I don't see Nova in the top 4. Honestly, I don't see it because they're lacking. I think in this format, you need to have 3, not 1 nor 2, 3 specialists in 1v1 in order to win. Because even if you win the King of the Hill, you might lose a triple draft. Then you have to have another 1v1 specialist. There is no more 2v2. That's why in Fab Gaming, I see them strong, but not like top team because of that. That's why Kicks, I don't feel that strong. And you'll see other teams that you will be impressed with when I put them very low. So this is my opinion. Nova, Xiao.K, he's a god. But the other 3, they are not even close to him. Little Chen, D.King, and I don't know anything about Aurora. So bottom 3 for Nova. Sorry.
Wow.
That's my opinion.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, wow. That's really surprising because I completely disagree, man, when it comes to Little Chen. I think that Little Chen's really talented. I think last season in King of the Hill, I think his King of the Hill record overall in his career is like near 80%, which, that's pretty impressive for a guy that's like that, especially if you have someone in Xiao.K that can just kind of carry your 1v1. I do completely agree with both you guys that if this is a 4-person roster where every person has to play in every match, that's going to be incredibly interesting. And I know nothing about Aurora, so I'm very, very curious to see what she does. we all know that 20-win challenge is not easy to do. So, that's at least something that's very impressive. I am surprised, they dropped, I believe it was Whistle and Unstoppable. And they kept D.King, who D.King was just like a very middle of the road player in his entire career. So I'm just kind of surprised with that, and like, I hate to insult the guy, but I feel like I'm just playing by the numbers. If I'm looking at some of your numbers here, Rich, and like the only thing that he's ever gotten above a 50% win rate in is 2v2. Yeah. And that's not a thing anymore. And it was only 55%. So, if I'm Nova, they must have some master plan going on right now, because if I look at this roster, it feels like it's going to be way too much weight for these people to carry if it wasn't someone other than Elsiop, who we know can just play a million games forever and he's just fine. I don't think I put them in the bottom 3, but I think I see them just out of the top 3.
Yeah, interesting note on Little Chen, and Andrew, you're right. Lifetime King of the Hill record for Little Chen is a 78% win rate. Okay. 2v2 with 85 games played, 64%. These are only regular season numbers, by the way, for those of you keeping along at home. But his 1v1 win rate is only 51%, so it drags his head-to-head win rate down pretty significantly to 54% in his lifetime in the regular season for CRL. So Little Chen, has been mostly a 2v2 guy as of late. We'll see. Again, this is the big question, this format of taking 2v2 out. And you understand for a little bit why. We can talk about this for a moment right now. You understand why, because if people are playing remote, it's harder to play 2v2 at a high level than it is to play if you're not in the same room. But personally, and I'll take the bullet here on this one, I don't like Triple Draft as a competitive game mode, and my reason why is that there are just under 100 cards in the game. Because of the nature of Triple Draft, you see a total of 2/3 of those cards. You see 60 cards. Each player sees 30 of them and 30 different cards from their opponent. So you see 60 of the cards, and because of safety, there's certain cards, if they come up early, you almost always draft them. I think this mode creates kind of like a meta that's repetitive, where you see a lot of the same cards over and over again, maybe even more so than in traditional 1v1, because you have to, if you see a certain card pop up early, you kind of have to pick it because you don't know what you're going to get later, as opposed to being like, hey, maybe I'll go for this riskier move, but if I pick like a cycle card early and I don't get cycle cards later, it kind of feels like this mode lends itself to heavier, slower decks rather than people being able to build something faster just because of the risk factor. So that's why I don't love Triple Draft as the mode in here, but I understand why they took 2v2 out and put something in. Personally, Triple Draft just doesn't excite me from a competitive standpoint. Koji, I know you were chomping at the bit about this one.
You actually want me to do it?
Yes, sir.
No, it is wrong. In every aspect, it's wrong. They shouldn't be here. I get rumors why it was decided, but I won't say it here. But if you're listening to me, why did you put this idea into China? Why? You know who you are. I don't know. I don't know why they decided to put it. I think this is Supercell trying to push, again, all of us to try to play all the different modes. Come on. I mean, 2v2, we are finally getting the hang of it. We're finally everybody loving it, and you're going to take it away. There is no excuse about the communications. In these days, you can be in Discord, Skype, I don't know, Zoom, whatever you want. Actually, these guys live in the same country. Call yourself on a cell phone, on a regular line, and that is not an excuse. So for me, it's not good. It's going to become like exactly what you said, kind of predictable at the end. It's going to be kind of the same decks. You are not actually looking at the real potential of each player, because at the end, in this Triple Draft, you create a deck kind of weird at the end, like 2 cards that they don't belong there, that you are not happy about it. At least that's what happens to me when I play it. I have like 2 cards, like what the heck. So imagine you have a guy that is giving all these prizes. He's a professional player and everything, and at the end it's about luck. I mean, you were complaining that you didn't want to make this just a luck game. That's what Triple Draft is. And to make it even worse, the position of the set. If you would have put it in the first set, I still hate it, but it's in the first set. At least you lost it and you have time to recover. Right now, you lost the first set because you were outmatched or whatever, outplayed. And then you have to bring luck in the decisive set for the person that lost the first one. So I hate it, man. I hate it. I'm sorry. And please, when you did say don't give anybody's ideas, do not bring these to West at all. Please.
All right, look, I hear everything that you guys are saying, and I actually agree with everything. Like, honestly, I think that you will get a lot of the same win conditions that will be picked immediately, and those will lead to a lot of the same decks. And there's only so many cards in the game, and I've been in that same position when you're drafting for triple draft, where it feels like you're playing Texas Hold'em, and you're like hoping that river card is what you need because you've built a graveyard deck, but then it ends up being like a goblin giant. You're just like, what am I supposed to do with this? Like I've been there. But there's the other side of it where, you look at someone like, I think it was Baron who posted on Twitter that he was 18-0 in the triple draft. And he did it like a couple times on different accounts or something like that. Or I think you could do it again. I think you could keep doing the triple draft maybe. And he did it like a few times. So there's a couple parts of that equation, right? Like Baron's obviously a god when it comes to Clash Royale. And the people that he were playing against probably are not that good at triple drafting. And they're probably not even close to as good as he is at Clash Royale. So he's got an inherent advantage. But let's look at this like poker, right? Like, let's say that these are the two greatest triple draft players in the world. They're looking at all the 60 cards that they see, that their opponent sees. They're guessing what their opponent's picking based off of, when they saw them, when the cards came up, and what they prefer as their comfort decks. Like, I think there's a way for this to feel like a crazy level of chess with some randomness to it. Yes, I like 2v2 more. Yes, I wish it was 2v2. But I do also think that, dude, we were having trouble setting up a Discord call today, and we all stream.
Sure.
You guys stream for a living. So like, it just seems like 2v2 right now, and we'll see what happens when it comes to West and what we decide on doing. But like, it feels kind of like a nightmare. It feels like a logistics nightmare, connection nightmare, cheating, like whatever you want to do, disconnects, all these things it just feels crazy. So I agree. I really wish it was 2v2. I love 2v2, and I really think it is like the heart of the competitive team aspect of CRL. I think this is a pretty good fill-in for now. Thank God it's not touchdown.
Thank God it's not touchdown. You heard it here first. Thank God.
Thank you.
I actually almost... this is gonna get me so flamed. I'd almost rather see touchdown as the mode put in there.
No.
Because we'd at least because if you could build your touchdown deck, we'd find a meta. It'd be a whole thing. It could maybe explode touchdown. I'd almost rather see it. I'm not saying I would, but
what I would rather see? The mega deck. I would have prepreferred the mega deck.
Mega deck. Oh, that's interesting. If we did touchdown, we would show up on ESPN the Ocho. So maybe that's our key to breaking through. That. People would watch that.
I like it.
Did you say the Ocho? You're the best.
The Ocho.
You're the best.
Well, let's continue along. We've 3 teams down, 5 teams to go. And next up, a CRL World finalist from 2018, a team that had a good run in 2019, but didn't end up making it to the finals based on by a hair's breadth. And that's Ponos. And this is a pretty stacked Ponos. Important thing to note, the loss of Mikan Booya, who's moved into pure content creator status as opposed to competitive status. So looking at the Ponos roster, returning is going to be Reiki Jones and Ten God, and I believe Rad was on the team before, but I could be wrong. And then added in some massive additions of Yakitori and KK. KK in particular being, in my opinion, a huge addition to this Ponos team. Is this the consolidation of Japanese talent that we were looking for, that we were expecting? Like, how do you compare this Japanese roster to the roster over of Fav Gaming? There's so many interesting moving pieces here. So Andrew, let's start over on your side. We know KK from Game With, a talented player being added into this team that was already really good. What do you think of Ponos now, and how do you compare them to Fav Gaming?
Dude, they look kind of like the Yankees of CRL East right now when you look at this roster. You've got so much experience and talent on this lineup, and KK is huge. He's so very good. Now, he's someone that when I went to WCG, I heard his name. I'd already heard his name before I got there. And when I watched him play, he was incredibly impressive. And I think the loss of Mikan Booya is really interesting, right? Like, he's definitely the heart of their team, and he was really good at boosting their morale. But it also felt like he was maybe falling off a little bit, or maybe, I don't want to say he wasn't as interested, but it just didn't seem like he was quite at that top 1% that you need someone like your captain to be at. Because the other thing is that you don't really want to bench Mikan, right? Like, if he's there kind of hyping up your team, he kind of needs to play. And if he needs to play, he needs to win. So I think if he was feeling going into content creation, or maybe Ponos was, whatever, whoever decided to make the choice there, I think it's actually really good. And I look at this squad and I think top 3 easily, like so incredibly easily. Like I look at these guys and they're masters of the game, and you add KK in there who can basically bring home a 1v1 set against almost anyone in the world. Yeah, I think Ponos is going to be back just like they were for the first World Finals.
There you go. Koji, do you agree? Is Ponos making a run at the title?
You guys are going to kill me today.
This is why you're here.
That's a good thing. That's a good thing about like, I and you know what? I kind of agree. If you see point, after point that Andrew just made, I will have to agree. But no, I feel, again, this is a 5-man roster. Yes, KK, I love Reiki Jones, thank God. I love them on Rad. I like them. But again, this is a team that they were specialized in a 2v2. That's where their forte. Again, teams that really, really, have their records because of their 2v2, I think they're going to struggle this time, big time, because they have to adapt. They're going to see the 1v1 players. They're going to be pressure all the time from King of the Hill, from triple draft, and in case of getting to the 1v1, even more pressure. So I want to see what they're made of. You can answer back and say, oh, Koji, but come on, KK, Rad, even Reiki Jones, when he plays 1v1, he was good. I mean, these are, thank God, they're amazing players. But I don't know. I want to see, because they were always counting on that 2v2. So I wouldn't say they're the Yankees. I still like Fab better. Out of all the teams you have mentioned, I still believe a little bit. It's between Fab and this. I would put them 4th or 3rd.
Well,
there we go.
Koji, don't you think, though, that like losing someone like Mikan, who was like such a great 2v2 player, but they also lose the set, and then you add in someone like KK, who was better than any of them at head-to-head, like, you really think they still are going to miss that set? Or don't you think they're going to love getting the 1v1?
Yeah, I'm absolutely with you. But I think this is a team that since day one, they were specialized on 2v2, no matter even if they lost one of their masters in 2v2. So I don't know. I feel that I have my doubts. I insist. I think all these teams thought they were going to be playing 2v2, man. I have that feeling based on what I'm looking at. And I strongly believe they did these changes because one of the other players was already playing with Reiki Jones in a very high level, and they were going to be a 2v2. So then you leave this team hanging. And also, I don't like teams in this format specifically with 5 players.
Yeah.
I think 4 players is the right way to go. So having 5, I think, is actually worse for your team in chemistry, synergy. Who do you bench? Who do you? And don't bring me that one that many people tell me, oh, you have more people to practice with. No, that's BS. You practice with 4 people, and especially right now, it's going to be even better because it's 1v1 all the time, and you have different, and you do mix and match. But I'm with you. I mean, I'm feeling strong because I top 3. Let me give you top 3. You convince me. It's not 4th. Top 3. But that's it. Maybe it's 3rd one. 3rd place.
So that's 2 Japanese squads cracking the top 3 so far in our panel. And now we're moving away from Japan and on to a team based in Hong Kong that has kind of taken a massive turn this year, a real changing of the script. Talon Esports, that in the past had a really international roster. Taking a look at what they did last year, they had the American Yugi, they had The Rock, they had Tochilovac, the Croatian. I mean, they had such an interest, right? He's Croatian, or did I get that wrong? Sorry, Tochi, if I got the country wrong there. I believe you're Croatian. I could be wrong.
You're right. I think
that's right because I remember calling one of his matches.
Yeah, it was a completely international roster, and now they have switched to an entirely Korean roster with some players you're familiar with. One Crown, Hall, Line, who had some great performances during this offseason, and then the addition, and I love this rebranding, and you and I, Andrew, talked about it a little bit when we saw this at CRL World Finals. No longer Dandelion, rebranded as Blizzard now with Talon Esports. So there's your 4-man roster.
My gosh, I love it. I was I was like, I swear that's not the right picture because I know that. Oh wow, okay, I'm so happy that you just said that.
Yeah, that might be the best rebranding, better than Kingzone Dragon X rebranding to Team Timing. We'll talk about that later. Probably the best rebrand of this off season. Dandelion is now Blizzard. You and I had surmised that maybe Dandelion sounded really badass in Korean, and then but now he's Blizzard. So there you go, Blizzard, Hall, Line, and One Crown. Koji, I know that you've seen some great performances from Line, I believe in No Tilt Worlds. What's your thought on Talon? Is this a sleeper team that could surprise people?
It could be a sleeper, but I won't make it a sleeper. I won't make it in the bottom. Sadly, Dandelion Online is the only. I don't see them carrying this team. I don't have much information about Hall or One Crown, so I cannot. Maybe you can give me more insight on them. But based on what I'm seeing, I don't see Dandelion Online carrying this. So actually, I see this team sadly not as a sleeper. I see it as a bottom 2 team actually, because I said like if you're gonna give me points, I put like Nova would be 6, this would be 7 or 8. Talon, in my opinion, even though it has only 4 people, I'm just contradicting myself. I think they could start really bad and then catch up while the season continues. But I don't know. That's my opinion, guys. I mean, tell me what you feel.
Andrew, Thunder and One Crown were the OGN Entist 2v2 duo, and then of course we saw Dandelion in that heartbreaker of a match against Igor.
Yeah.
What do you feel about when you look at this Talon squad?
Well, yeah, I mean, like I guess One Crown was probably the better 1v1 player, like overall record wise, but even then it didn't really feel like he stood out much. And then you bring up Dandelion or Blizzard in that match against Hazard, and like it's hard when you watch a professional implode, right? Just because it's like you think that they're not quite like us, which that they really are. And we've all seen it happen. You've seen them tilt. But that moment when I saw Dandelion tilt at the finals, it's kind of a make or break moment. So we'll see what happens moving forward. But right now, unfortunately, he's kind of lost my faith as a person that can carry a lot of pressure. And that's kind of all anything is anymore, right? It's just King of the Hill, triple draft, or 1v1. So I think I'm actually with Koji here. I think I'd probably put them at like 7th place. I feel like this is going to be a roster bust. And I even told you before we hopped on the call, I was like, man, when you look at some of the varying levels of talents on these squads, and Talon was one of the ones I mentioned. So I'm happy to be proven wrong, and I hope that they have a great season, but I'm not expecting them to.
Well, that's the big issue here is the poaching of the 2 of the top Korean talents in TNT and Jupiter King going over to CRL West and joining Tribe Gaming, because you look at this Talon roster and you go, okay, now if you throw TNT and Jupiter King on that roster, maybe for some substitutions, what kind of nasty squad do you have there instead? As I think we're all sort of on the same page here that Talon has a lot to prove in this season, to put it that way, and I don't see them cracking top 4 most likely in my list. Moving on to our 6th team, the rebrand, and again, my second favorite rebrand of the 2 rebrands that we're going to talk about today. Team Timing, formerly Kingzone Dragon X, having lost their star in Expo Master, who went to OPGG before, and now with some players returning and a little bit of a mix-up here, taking a look at the roster overall for Team Timing: Haruki, Sato, Nuri, and Greed. A very young team. The average age is 18 years old, and one of the few teams that has a full-on rookie in Haruki. What do you guys think, Koji, looking at Team Timing? Like, do they have a real shot at cracking the top here?
Yeah, again, this is another team that I will have. Sadly, it's going to fight with Talon at the bottom. Also, it's a team that I don't know much. The only one and I respect a lot. I really like Sato. He's the one that I know the most. But again, it's lacking of names. Maybe these are sleepers, like the players, not the team, that we're going to be impressed when everything starts. And I'm going to be, whoa, well, look at these mechanics and everything. Right now, I cannot put my hands on fire. So between Talon and Team Timing, I think they're going to be in the bottom 2. Yeah, man, I cannot give you any more insight in this team. Only Sato that I know is very, very I like him. I like him a lot. Even in 1v1, I think he's a capable player. But besides that, I don't know. I cannot give you more, man. I'm sorry. You brought me.
I get you.
The next two teams, I can tell you more.
So just a little cover up here for you guys. Every single player on this team is a mid to high 7K player. Greed 7.4, Haruki 7.6, Nuri 7.7. Sato is an 8K player, and Haruki is the only rookie here, with Nuri being the returning player from King's Own Dragon X, and Sato and Greed coming over from Sandbox. So Andrew, with all that information, could these guys be the lesser known team that shocks the world, or are they destined for the bottom 4?
I think they're destined for 8th place. Yeah, I mean, I'll be honest, man. You know, if we're given numbers, looking them, I'm doing all my, you guys are speaking, I'm trying to cover all my bases with information on players that I don't know online. And, there's not a lot about any of these guys. There really isn't. And the guys that have been in the league or have played, they don't really have a ton of kind of accomplishments or awards to their names. Yes, they've shown, like Sato's shown that he can play, and, Greed's shown that he's decent. But, they're really young. It feels like they don't have a true vet on their squad to kind of show the way, or at least, I mean, the other thing is that this game's online, right? So like how it's almost impossible to be in that top 1% and people just not know a lot about you. So that's the other thing that makes it's just like a really big question mark in my mind, is like, how is there so little about so much of this squad out there? If they've been playing the game that much, like why these guys, why timing to pick these 4 people?
So here's an interesting question for you guys. All 4 of these players are proven at least somewhat skillful on ladder. Most of them are high 7Ks, if not 8K players. We talked about this 2v2 being gone and purely a head-to-head format. Just having 4 good solid ladder players, does that lend these guys any maybe extra skill boost as we go into this tournament?
Yes, it does on paper. I want to see when you're competing against other, because you're talking about this team, but look what they're against too. They're gonna be fighting KK in Ponos. They're gonna. We have to go to the next one, where you're gonna have a higher an Ock playing. The real Aurora. Let's call it that way. You're gonna have a Jack. Honestly, I don't see it, man. I don't see it. I respect what you're saying, but they need to be proven. They need to be there. You saw what happened, for example, with Lapo. We all experienced it. He was like the best player in the first time he was around. Then people figure him out, and then he didn't play that good. Maybe it was the pressure, or it was all the hype. So I don't know. It might be that these 4 people are the new Lapo, and they are gonna just win everything, or the pressure is gonna hit them right away, and they're not gonna do that good. I don't know. My opinion is and like I said it, I wouldn't put my hand on fire for any of them, and I am gonna stick with it.
Is that a Spanish turn of phrase?
I was literally.
Oh yeah. I'm sorry. That's a literal translation. Poner la mano en el fuego. It's like when you're not gonna bet for anybody. Like I believe like Andrew is a good caster, let's say. But I'm saying I'm having a debate with like a famous caster, and I'm saying like he's good. In a moment of the conversation, I would say, you know what, he's good, but I will never put my hands on fire for him. That's an expression.
For Andrew, you wouldn't? How dare you? I thought we were all friends.
No, for Andrew, I will give my life. No.
I know. I feel like I'm still not understanding this, because that felt not good to hear.
No, it's like you're praising someone, but when you're pressured, you at the end, the way of backup is saying like, okay, I wouldn't give my life for that person. Basically, but that would be the extreme. Is I wouldn't give my life for that person. That's what it means.
Well, I put my hand in fire for both of you guys. Moving on.
Hey, but Andrew didn't say it. Andrew, did it affect to you that they have very good PBs, all of these guys?
I don't really think so, just because we've seen people with low PBs that play like crazy. We've seen people that are really good on ladder that struggle. I think it's just about being on the stage, like you guys said. Obviously, they're some of the best in the world with their ladder scores, but it's different when you're at CRL.
All right, cool. So TTG not getting a vote of confidence from this panel. Let's move on. Oh, sorry, Talon. I team timing. Man, all these T's. There's a rule of screenwriting. You can't have like a Michael, you can't have like a Sam, a Steve, and like a Saul all in the same script, right? You have to vary the.
It's brutal.
Yeah, Talon, timing, and here we go. TTG, new org in CRL for this season, but the players certainly not new. You should know this entire roster if you follow CRL East at all. Leading things off, as we just heard, the original Aurora, AUK, D.King, Nomisa, and Xiao.K as the 4-team roster for TTG. Andrew, you and I first got our real experience with AUK back in CRL World Finals 2018. He's bounced around a bit after leaving Nova. What do you think about him with this team and this squad overall? We've seen a couple of these guys play live.
Yeah, No Misu, we saw for the first time, I think, at WCG. I think that if you want to pick a squad to be your sleeper squad to win the whole thing, I think this is the one you go with. I think that there's a lot of experience on this squad, and we've had guys that have really, really proven themselves in big moments over the years. Obviously, when you look at it, it's almost like a Moneyball roster. It's like well, they perform well here and they do this well, and they're going to lose at these moments, but they could at least get you wins in these moments. So it feels like it's kind of like a numbers game with this squad. I don't really see a huge amount of strengths, but I don't see a ton of weaknesses either. So I think I put them as my sleeper squad to kind of shock all of CRL East.
I think that actually might be a pretty decent pick. And when we go over to Koji, Koji, you just saw a couple of these players competing in no tilt, in particular D.King, just coming off the no tilt victory for China. Do you have a similar view of this TTG squad?
Even stronger. So this would be more than a sleeper. I would put it like, actually, remember I said Fab and Ponos, I'm going to give you a top 3. This one should be in the top 3 for sure. I like them a lot. I like them more than Nova. That's why I know I put them like 4th, 5th. I like them more than Nova. I'm sorry, but I just saw D.King. I saw Oak or Aurora. Nomishi always trust him. And in a moment in my life, I believe like Xiao.K or Xiao.K or whatever you pronounce it, he was the best player in China in a moment. I really like him. And he hasn't been playing up to his level. I strongly believe, again, it's a roster of 4. They're going to be practicing a lot between them. They are very good in 1v1. I like this team a lot, guys. So it's more than a sleeper. I see in a contender.
A lot of head-to-head talent here. Nomisa coming over from CRL World Final number 2 W.EDGM. Xiao.K, I believe, coming from Gen G. D.King and AUK, of course, both coming off of that World Finals, or that No-Tilt Worlds Championship. So, yeah, Andrew picking them as a sleeper. You're picking them as a favorite, and I think that you guys are both right. If you don't know this team personally as well, they feel like a sleeper, and if you know them pretty well, they feel like a contender. And especially I think if we talked about this roster earlier on in this conversation, I might be less bullish. But now, having seen them compared to these other rosters, especially considering the format isn't a 2v2 based format, I think this team definitely has a good shot. It certainly should finish in the top 4 and a good shot at making a run at that finals. All right, down to our final team, the number 2 in the world from last season, with their dynamic duo returning. It's W.EDGM with a couple of big time pickups, and their roster this time out is going to be Hire and Solo Man coming back, with Sia making a return to W.EDGM one more time, and then the addition of Juan G and Peas as 2 more players to this W.EDGM squad. We started with you last time, Andrew, going over to Koji to kick things off this time around. Koji, does W.EDGM still have it? Is this team going to repeat the success they had last time out, or has the bloom worn off the rose, as they might say?
Do you have all, or give me any statistics of how well did Peas or Wangi before?
Well,
in 1v1.
Interestingly enough, I'm having trouble finding any information on Peas. His account is not appearing on Royale API. I'm getting an error on his account, so it's difficult to get much on Peas from that standpoint. Of course, Juan G coming from JDG. I'm going to go ahead and take a look at just a couple little notes over here. Obviously, Solo Man and Hire, super talented. I think that Hire is one of the more underrated players overall in the tournament, overall in Clash Royale. But yeah, go ahead, talk. I'll give you some info. Some
No,
more info
I
on
mean,
those
when
guys.
you give me, I just wanted that to confirm what I was about to say. I think also, if you want me to give you top 4 and bottom 4, I know you all are surprised with my decision of putting like Nova in 5th. I mean, it's kind of 5th and 4th. It would be switching with this team, and that's what I wanted to go. I think this team, I like him. I just saw Solomon and Higher. I know they play 2v2 together. I know, but I did also see them. I mean, the few times that China didn't sweep in 2 sets in the no-till worlds, what they can do playing 1v1. They are very talented players. This is a team with 5 players, but we know Sia won't play. I mean, I think she was used once or twice in the whole season, and she was not used at all when we were casting in Tokyo. In Tokyo. I'm sorry, I didn't go to
Los
Tokyo.
Angeles.
I wish. No, in Los Angeles. So that's why I wanted to know how good 1G and Ps are, because if they are like a solid 1v1, I'm telling you, this is my sleeper. My team would be between this one and Nova as a sleepers. I know you put Nova as a contender, but because of that, and I just saw them play, and I'm still hyped of how amazing they did with the whole team of China. They used 7 different players at the end because of the situation, and they all played amazing. So I'm kind of biased for any Chinese player in this moment. So that's it, man. Yeah, my sleeper. It would be top 4 fighting it with Nova. Right
I don't
there.
know a lot
you
about
guys-
Ps, but Wan Ji.
Sorry. No,
did have
P
a
is
top-
not Chinese. Am I right? P is not Chinese.
Let me take a look at that.
Oh, easy.
But Wan Ji did have Ps is Chinese. Wan Ji did have a top 10 win rate in the fall season for CRL China. So you can put that in context.
Interesting.
In head-to-head play.
Yeah, top 10. And so yes, a contender, definitely top 4 player in team. That's it. I have my top 4. Andrew, I want to hear you now. Debate me.
I mean, I don't think I have too much to debate you, man. I definitely don't have as much confidence in them as you do, and I know that you have the recency bias of no tilt. But I look at this roster, and like you said, Sia most likely will not play unless maybe she's like a triple draft god, which would be really awesome to see. But like I said this earlier, it feels kind of crazy when you don't know a lot about players, right? Like when you hear about them getting picked up, or like these rosters, these organizations, like I feel for the most part, almost every single time last season when we heard about someone getting picked up, we all knew about them. And if we didn't immediately know, Koji knew, or Manu knew, or Deco, or Bruno, you know what I mean? So there's been about 4 or 5 names that have come up that we've seen in the space, but like there's not really a lot of acclaim to their name. I've never heard of these guys, Wangi and Ps. I do like Hire and Solomon, and obviously I didn't really see Sia play just like you guys. I put W.EDGM in a spot like I could see him going 4th or 5th, and maybe they shock in like a tournament bracket or like in playoffs. But I definitely don't see them being like a top tier team throughout the season.
P started off his last fall season as a 2v2 guy, moved into 1v1, and kind of went up and down. The highlight being he had a sweep over LCOP in a best of 3 set at one point during the season, but then sort of the back end, P's had some difficulty. So, or P's a newbie overall as a team had some difficulty. So, kind of a head-to-head. Started off as a 2v2 guy and moved into 1v1 and had up and down success is the best way to put it.
We'll see how it develops, but yeah.
Where do you put him, Rich?
This is interesting because it's hard to bet against Hire and Solomon. Both those guys are so darn good.
Yeah.
Wan Ji obviously can play. Peas is super streaky. It looks like he can really hit or really miss. I don't know. I mean, these guys seem like right now, at the end of seeing all these different teams, I put them as kind of a middle of a pack. I'd put their floor at 5th or 6th and their ceiling at 2nd or 3rd. I don't see them as the number 1 team.
Okay.
But I kind of put them as like they'll be in the middle based on, I think, who's streaking when they hit which matchups. That's sort of how I see it. A very fence-sitting answer from
you're very like
but a team that I feel
correct.
but a team that I feel very fence city about. Like the other teams, like I don't think that Kix is going to have the success that they would hope for. I think that Talon has their possibilities. I think Team Timing could surprise us, but W.EDGM, I feel like the expectations are very high. I think they're going to have the hardest time of the teams that have high expectations. I think they'll have the hardest time of meeting those expectations. That's probably my best way to put it.
Oh, I really actually, that's interesting because I was going to say that about about Ponos.
Oh, Ponos. Okay.
But like I it's like pretty hard for me to believe that Ponos will really struggle just because there's so much talent on that squad. But I could just see it being one of those crazy moments where you've seen that in the NBA where you get this squad, this dream team together, and it just doesn't do anything. But that's an interesting pick for what you're saying there, especially just because the second place at Worlds.
Sure, you guys. If you guys pick if you had to pick a champion right now, what do you got? Just go, I'm going to put everyone on the spot right now.
Oh my God.
Pick your champion at this moment. Who wins CRL East?
I almost talked myself into it with Ponos when I looked at their roster and the idea of KK being there, but I think I just stick with my gut, man. I think I'm going to stick with FOV Gaming. I really like what I saw out of them last season. I think they've all grown a lot, and I love that Expo and Jack are now a combined force.
Very cool. Koji, is TTG your absolute favorite? You were really hot on them earlier.
I just want to go against Andrew because I hate the guy. No, you know what? If they figure it out, Fab, how to use a 5-player roster, and they bench one. I strongly believe one has to be benched and just use 4 constantly. I would be with Andrew, but since I don't know what they're gonna do, I'm picking TTG. That's it. I said it. TTG is gonna be the champion.
Wow,
that's a pretty solid pick. Man, how do I even follow up this conversation? I think this is a hard call.
You can pick Ponos or Nova.
No,
you guys were...
I can't pick either of those two because I don't think either of them are going to be the champion.
Then just repeat one of ours.
Yeah, I think it's one of your choices.
No, come on.
No, I'm gonna pick someone. I'm looking back and forth. I think that Fav is hungry. I think that Expo Master is playing some great Clash Royale right now.
Amazing.
I'm going to go with Fav Gaming here. I'm going to jump on the same train here as Andrew for my pick. TTG though, but I think these are the top 2 teams.
Expo Master speaks Japanese. That's another thing. The chemistry there. He's Korean,
but they're not playing 2v2.
I don't. Exactly. That's one thing I was going to say is like.
Oh, okay. Yeah, it's true. True that. It's not important.
And I think Expo Master speaks everything. Like he and I had a very coherent conversation.
He speaks very good English.
His English was phenomenal when we were going back and forth on Twitter. So, yeah, no, I think Expo Master probably speaks like 7 languages. He might be the Indiana Jones of Korea. That's a distinctive possibility. Who knows?
Dude's a genius, man.
Yeah, he's brilliant. I like Fav Gaming a lot. I think that TTG and Fav are the top 2 teams, and I think that for a sleeper pick, I think that Team Timing, because people don't know them as well, they're gonna beat some people, and I think they have a shot at making top 4.
What? You put Team Timing as sleeper? No, it's between Fav and TTG. I would put Ponos, and then I'm gonna tell you guys it's either W.EDGM or Nova. I don't think Kicks, Talon, or Team Timing have a chance. Those 3 are the bottom for sure.
Who's your
opinion. I don't know. Andrew.
Who's your MVP? You guys have an MVP?
MVP
of the whole season.
As a player already? You want me to pick an MVP?
Who do you think? Look, people do preseason MVPs all the time. Who do you think has a good shot at being the MVP of CRL East Spring for 2020?
Oh man, that's a good question.
I know.
I stay with my guy. Aurora. The other Aurora.
Sure.
AUK.
AU. Let's call it AU.
I'm going with Expo. I feel like he's got something to prove. He's my Korean brother, and we all love him. So I enjoy talking to him as well.
He's playing good, man. He's playing good. So
he's
good
hungry.
Choice.
He's hungry. He's playing with a chip on his shoulder.
That's a really, really good way to put. That's a really good point. Man, I'm looking at this. I'm trying to look at all these ones, and I'm going to have to pick someone. I'm going to have to pick neither one of those 2. I am going to say that my MVP is going to be higher. That's my MVP. I think he's a brilliant player. I think that he's strong enough to carry W.EDGM into the top 4. It's going to be hard to do, but I'm going to go with higher as my MVP pick.
Okay.
We'll see.
So none of us is calling LC up. I mean,
not one of us.
That might have to be
one of us. That's interesting. Or KK.
KK has a really good shot at being. I was debating between KK and higher. I kind of took.
Yeah, I was actually debating between KK and Expo, so that's interesting as well.
Very, very good points.
Okay, so here we have it. No, I like our picks in general, but it is funny that you can kind of complain against me when I said like Nova would be 4th or 5th, and none of you is putting in the top 3.
Yeah.
No.
So
No, it's
I
just
agree.
crazy to say. It's hard to bet against Nova, but it's one of those things where you look at this is I think we saw a big boost in talent in CRL West when you had NA, EU, and LATAM all come together, and I think that we're going to see the same thing here. Like the level of gameplay in CRL East, I think is going to be bananas. And this is if this team was in CRL China, I think I'd still pick Nova to be going at least to the finals of CRL China. But in CRL East, I think it's a different ball game.
Yeah, I think it's a new level of competition, and also like, there's that crazy story about all the coaches that used to be coached by Belichick in the NFL, and it's this. You look at now, it's like all these people that have played in these other squads now they're going up against their old squads. You got people that used to be on Nova playing against Nova, and same thing for FAV, and I can go on for all the squads, but I think that's another thing that's really interesting is like learning the way that your opponents strategize and what their strengths are, and the way that they practice, and now you have that insider information.
It's absolutely crazy. Guys, thank you so much. If anyone have any last thoughts before we sign off and move on and get ready for this big opening weekend?
No, man, thanks for having me.
Nope. Everything great. Thank you for having me as well.
All right, so that's it for our roster wrap-up. CRL East kicks off this weekend, Saturday, April 4th. If you're in the United States of America, that's 2 a.m. Pacific time, 5 a.m. Eastern time. It's middle of the day if you're in Europe. If you're somewhere in the Eastern region, if you're somewhere in Asia, Australia, it's probably an excellent time for you. I'm not going to look up times. Find out your own darn times. The kickoff match is going to be W.EDGM against FAV Gaming. So that's your first match of Saturday morning. Team Timing TTG and Nova Esports against Talon, and they'll have the other 4 teams, or have the rest of the teams playing on that Sunday. So this will be a big opening weekend. I'll put the link to CRL East in the show notes so you can make sure you find it. I should have said subscribe about 50 times throughout this video because I'm supposed to say subscribe more often, but go ahead, subscribe to my channel so you can get more stuff like this, Inside the Play, top 5 videos, etc., etc. I'm Rich Slayton. Find Andrew and Koji. I will put their Twitters on the screen right now, and I'll put them in the show notes, and we'll see you back here for more CRL East now, West in the May. I'm Rich Slayton. See you next time.